you're probably an expert on medieval history, which again, there's a lot of stuff about you being annoyed about the way the medieval people are portrayed in films and in literature and thought of, which is a sort of backward, dirty people throwing feces out their windows, never bathing. So
the publisher had to say, we're going to have to combine a few chapters, or it's just medieval stuff, because it's one of those things that really gets under my skin.
But in fact, medieval history is the thing that out of all the history I'm trying to get into, and I never learned about it at school, and so I've sort of it is interesting because I'm talking to Mary Beard soon. I might have talked to her by the time this comes out, and there's so much about Rome and the Roman period, and so much incredible evidence and letters and things you wouldn't imagine. And the medieval period does have this disadvantage of very little, source material surviving, I suppose. So that's why people.
But for a while, I mean, there is a lot less written source, far fewer written sources left behind.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot of archaeology and architecture and lots of other things. So we've learned so much about that era ever since. And for instance, even I had no idea, but I read during research, I read about the conduit in London, which is, they had all these pipes where they got fresh water from a spring, pumped it into medieval London for clean water. And I thought, that's interesting. That's very exciting. I wonder how many medieval cities and towns had something similar. So I started to make a list, and I thought, well, maybe 10, 20. And, the list just keeps growing. It's just something we don't write about. It's just something we assume didn't exist. I mean, people still had aqueducts, and they were building the new ones, or the conduits, which are pretty much the same thing, except under the ground, which is smarter, Mr. Roman. So, it's just one of those things when you look at an era and just assume something, you have this image in your head, you don't look for something that contradicts it.
Yeah.
For instance, how many bathhouses were there in medieval cities? We don't really know because we thought there weren't that many. Archaeologists for a very long time, if they found a house with a gutter and an oven, they assumed it was a bakery because it's got an oven. But now we know that with a gutter and an oven, it probably was a bathhouse, and sometimes bathhouses and bakers shared the same oven.
Right.
But when you assume that there were no bathhouses, you're not going to think, oh, that's a bathhouse. So you have to poke through all these walls and just break them all down and try and look at what you see from a different perspective, and that's not easy.
Yeah, well, it's archaeology is amazing for that, and because again, it has no agenda. Archaeology, really. I mean, obviously, archaeologists can do, but it's a very fact-based thing, and it's amazing now the stuff that can be picked up through archaeology and the particles that can be found and understood. But history itself, of course, is notoriously difficult to know what is true and what isn't true. So fake history, in a sense, is a lot of history. Obviously the adage that history is written by the victors and all that sort of stuff, but it will be written. Even sources are from a perspective at the time, and often one based on currying favor or saving your life or whatever. So it is it's difficult to say any history is absolutely true.
Yeah, it's the one thing that never changes, but also changes all the time.
Yeah.
Because what we know about it and what we think about it changes all the time. I mean, I think we can say about quite a lot of few things that this is, fact. We know this happened. We know this is true. We've got so much evidence. But what will also always keep changing is our perspective and how we look at it and our bias. Because unfortunately, archaeologists and historians and experts and everyone else, we're still just humans, which still is a bit better than AI, but we still mess things up and we change our minds. And that's so funny when you look at movies about any historical era or documentaries. They very often tell us more about the era the film was made in. The 1950s Middle Ages looked very different from the ones we've got now. It's fascinating.